Kerry Eurodyne is a Night City-based music artist, formerly known as the vocal and lead rhythm guitar for the band Samurai. He is a frequent central character appearing in Cyberpunk 2013, Cyberpunk 2020, and also Cyberpunk 2077.
So in Kerry's biography, starting in the 2000s, he achieved initial fame as a member of Samurai, performing the vocals, lead and rhythm guitar. He went in with a vision of changing the world through music, one which he shared with his best friend Johnny Silverhand, but their perspectives regarding the execution of this plan often came to conflict. This led to Kerry's multiple attempts at leaving the band, which were nearly successful at launching his own solo career, but eventually the complex relationship he had with his friend always pulled him back.
In the end, Samurai's final disbandment followed Johnny's departure instead, which led Kerry into a rocky couple of years. He ended up going back to his roots, staying on the Masbate for 2 years, refilling his batteries and dealing with spiritual needs. Luckily, he did manage to recollect the pieces and came back to the music scene renewed and inspired, if not even encouraged by the idea of elevating his own name out there, out of the shadow of Johnny Silverhand left behind. This new beginning was rough, but just as all diamonds, through a lot of hard work and effort, his music managed to shine brighter even than the contemporary commercial competitors. He withstood the test of time, his albums have gone platinum, his broken guitars had been auctioned for thousands of Eurodollars, and his singing voice is recognized worldwide.
Midway through the century, Kerry's life had taken an, most would say, unexpected turn, leaving him married to Louise Nordin Eurodyne with 2 children, Ted and Kim. The marriage ended on a low note, resulting in Louise getting most of their shared possessions, a house in Tokyo, cars and children. Despite trying to stay in positive relations, Kerry's attempts at keeping in touch usually ended up being misguided, and Louise has no trouble using it as a manner of preventing their children from idolizing him. Life without a family, however, is one, if one is to trust the words he chooses addressing the matter, seems to have benefited him, allowing a bit more freedom for the rocker boy lifestyle he managed to make a brand out of. Whether that freedom was used in a creatively practical manner is still a matter of debate.
Yep, so now we're skipping forward to the present timeline, so 2077 itself. In 2077, Kerry can be found spending most of his days back in his own villa in North Oak, maintaining a successful career of a solo artist. His label, MSM Media Corp, had already announced a new album in the works, and the audience that is more accustomed to his mass-produced republications has started growing impatient. As someone who gives great importance to public image, Kerry is deeply influenced by peer reviews. Various articles mentioning him, his life and his business rivals can be found in all corners of his home. Staying concurrent and able to produce music that will agree with the times while simultaneously not conforming and retaining originality is not easy for any artist, especially for one that has been in the public eye for half of a century. While topics he addresses with his music, mainly the suffering of the people under the heavy foot of corporate capitalism, has never truly gone stale and could provide yet another expected source of profit and affirmation, the sincerity of the thoughts put into the songs has started to wane. Without inspiration and without a change to look forward to, and without any real friends to speak of, Kerry slowly started falling back to a state he once was in, the overshadowing 2020s. The feeling of loss was mirrored in his social deprivation, reduction of individuality, depletion of creative inspiration, and overall exhaustion of will, which led his mind back to the source of the negativity, the loss of his friend. This friend who has cast a shadow for so long that even in his brightest moments, Kerry could still feel dousing his flame, regardless of decades past and media scorn grinding the name down to not more than a footnote in the city's history.
For a peace of mind, every couple of years Kerry would visit his guru Kian in Tangalan, go off the grid, recollect his thoughts and fulfill his spiritual needs. However, the tight schedule, public pressure and criticisms of the media put him in a rather difficult spot, forcing him to pick between the audience and his own health. Facing a familiar darkness, in a battle with his own conscience and desperate wish to keep himself afloat, He tries willing his recent acquaintance, Ariel Velasco, to stay with him, keep him company no matter the excuse. Not feeling strong enough to admit that the real reason behind his constant pestering, he tries offering Ariel a proper housekeeping job of any variety, resulting in a straightforward refusal of the offer.
Notably yet, the recent hot topic of Night City scream sheets has been the rumor of Kerry attempting to end his own life, fortunately prevented by a bodyguard who managed to take his gun away in time. The details of the event remain unclear, although the constant mentions through the media regurgitation managed to attract the attention of the digitized psyche of his long-departed friend, Johnny Silverhand. Not long after, a familiar sound of guitar interrupted Kerry's shower time at home. Expecting an intruder, who was able to bypass the high-end security, he faced him with a loaded gun. The way the guitar strings were plucked, however, cast away all doubt that, in spite of appearances within the head of a minor afterlife merc before him, was actually his friend, the person on whose loss towers have been built. Kerry maintained his civil conduct, put up a brave front, and denied all of the media accusations with a smile on his face, although a sliver of melancholy shone through every word he uttered, no matter how well he played the role. Now that Johnny is back, he thought there is maybe a chance for closure, one more samurai gig, for old time's sake, in hopes of shedding the weight of the shadow once and for all. Kerry felt the need to prove to himself that it was not the loss that made him into what he is now, as he would still perform just as well with Johnny on stage beside him. In addition to this, he also desired to demonstrate to Johnny just how fine he has been without him. They agreed to get the band back together without dragging them into the complexity of Johnny's current situation. So instead, the concert had been announced in honor of his name. To achieve this, they have set themselves on the path of finding Nancy, the keyboardist, Henry, the bassist, and contacting Denny, the drummer, who has been living just a street away from Kerry. While V takes care of Nancy, Kerry's duty is to get in touch with the band's divisive bassist Henry. There was no problem finding him, being situated in a rehabilitation facility, but his days there have not yet come to an end, so a permission to vacate the premises was not available.
This did not pose much of a drawback for Kerry, Henry willing, so they exited the building through a window. Their misadventure did not stop there. Finding out his former partner, the drummer Denny, was living in the same city as him, everyone but him knowing, set Henry off the rails quickly. Being provided drugs right after detox did not help either, resulting in a series of rash decisions and irreversible events which placed Kerry in the role of the problem's architect, being blamed by all parties. Denny will refuse spending another minute in Henry's presence, so a decision between the two must be made. A decision Kerry, as the initiator of the event and friend of both parties, cannot make on his own, so V helped by giving the final verdict. Once the band members have been more or less collected, Kerry will find a replacement bassist or drummer for the gig. Drowsin from the popular band Cutthroat will all but volunteer, as a big fan of samurai, and will be capable of taking either spot. His enthusiasm for receiving something he always wished for affects Kerry the wrong way, so he tries to calm him down, downscaling the event's relevance and bringing up that he is the only one among them that achieved true fame. Whether this behaviour came from being nervous over still having something to prove to Johnny and the subject being taken lightly, or due to knowing just how empty it feels to have your dreams come true, is left unanswered. But Kerry remained audibly annoyed, silently acknowledging being nervous to the point of shaking. The gig itself has been successful, executed rather professionally, with Kerry even taking a few moments to step into the spotlight in front of Johnny, which is something he would never have been able to achieve in the past. He admitted to Johnny later that looking back at his expectations, he was not sure what he was so anxious about. One gig was quite enough to prove his own fears irrational. Although once V took over the body and the reality of Johnny truly being gone making itself apparent once more, Kerry quickly made himself scarce, leaving the feeling of having more pressing matters to attend to. V received a parting gift, Kerry's pistol, the Archangel, a novelty that comes with a story of being used to almost shoot Johnny with. Implied, although not spelled out, he no longer felt the need for it now that he seems to be awake from a 50-year-old dream.
Returning to the present, Kerry is yet to face a different type of demon. Finding out that a laser pop sensation girl group from Japan called Us Cracks announced their Nusa tour with a cover of his song. Profit off of his hard work without even notifying him of it, let alone consulting him regarding author's rights. Feeling attacked by the competition and fearing falling under someone's shadow again, Kerry hires the most effective merc he knew, that being V, to assist him in exacting revenge, Night City style. The most effective, yet least harmful way he could think of was simply preventing their gig from ever happening, so sabotaging the band's equipment seemed like the easiest way of achieving it. The mission had been planned out to the detail, from getting military-grade equipment from fans to making sure his identity remains unknown. V's only role in the ordeal was simply being backup, so Kerry managed to do the whole job on his own, even having fun while at it. The following car chase, once NCPD caught wind of the roadside explosion he had caused, reminded him of better times in the past, of rare positive memories of Johnny, and is very willing to compare them to the current events. Losing the cops tailing them, per Kerry's request, the two had shared a coffee in Carnita Street, Chambata fast food joint. While he does not say it aloud, excusing the visit by praising the coffee, the restaurant is yet another memento from a simpler time and days spent with Johnny. A little story explaining their youthful desperation and eating junk food followed. He once more falls back to reminiscing, being as upset about his song being covered without his consent might actually be due to, as Johnny once claimed, his striving for money and fame rather than love of music itself and artistic values. Having a media corporation leash around his neck and allowing them to make administrative decisions for him does not disprove Johnny's point. Kerry's state of mind then fell into V's hands and, depending on their reaction to his opening up about his feelings like nothing more than a product, will heavily influence his following days.
Regardless of efforts invested into sabotaging the gig Us Cracks have scheduled, Kerry was informed that they would proceed with the event and simply obtain a different set of equipment for the performance. This was one step too far for Kerry's standards, so he decided to deal with the problem in person. Once more, he hired backup, and with V's help, infiltrated the Watson Club riot in which Us Cracks were about to perform. Barged into their dressing room with a gun, aimed at them, demanded they call the concert off. V had the opportunity to alter Kerry's life once again, bringing up that both parties had managers work behind their backs and spread misinformation. If this choice is taken, Kerry will own up to this harsh approach and apologise, opening up a path for future collaborations and a modernisation of his own music, as well as the approach to a broader New Age audience. Should V instead follow the plan and support Kerry's threat, not allowing excusing arguments, the concert is called off and the two leave with a deep feeling of vindication. Kerry appears to be satisfied no matter the result and calls V sometime later to an exclusive club, Dark Matter, for a conclusion of their business. Depending on the choice made during the previous meeting, the club will have two different stories to tell.
In the case of reconciling Kerry with Us Cracks, V will walk in on a crazed crowd lined with journalists after a collaborative concert with Us Cracks, where Kerry had just presented their new project, Off the Leash, a cover of his own song by the same title. He affirmed a positive position in the media, loudly denying any mention of potentially falling on hard times, while the girls from Us Cracks seem absolutely bedazzled by his presence. Kerry is not keen on upholding this act, however, and as soon as he saw V, who used them as an escape plan, leading them to the club balcony, explaining how he feels the need to get revenge on his manager, L.B. Kovacek, for working behind his back.
The club will host an entirely different mood should V not unite Kerry with the girls. Dark Matter is silent, emptied out for the evening, Kerry sitting in a booth with his old friend Spectre Cheng, looking rather distraught. Despite blaming managers, claiming ignorance and promising not to go on with covering the song, Us Cracks do regardless, sending Kerry a restraining order on top. Unable to deal with the situation directly, while leading V to the club's balcony, Kerry lays down a plan to hit Kovacek instead. The feeling of betrayal, learning his manager put the label before him and manipulating him to sign papers he otherwise would not, truly hit him hard, so he was not intending to let it go without a fight, especially since there was no way for him to actually fire the man, seeing how the media corporation he works for owns the rights to his songs.
Kerry is very aware of being in the corp's back pocket, but he simply dismisses the idea of breaking the contract as the price of fame. Should he actually decide to leave, he would not be able to release his own music, deal with administration, promotion, the media and the fans all on his own. Considering the labels have their claws on all of it, he went into comparing that sort of life, something Samurai was known for, to yet another type of cage. Once they're out on the balcony bar, shut down for the remains of the day, for Kerry's use alone, he melancholy praises the view, pointing out how it's an excellent place to look down on the city from. but the sadness in his voice and forlorn gaze into the distance shows that something seems to be terribly wrong. Whether V decides to ask about it or not, Kerry expresses himself in carefully chosen words. He has come to the realization that his dread brought on by the copyright infringement issue wasn't simply due to fear of public seeing him as a sellout, but much deeper. He confesses realizing that the root of the fear was in fact falling under yet another shadow. Barely days after he managed to release himself from the shackles of Johnny's legacy, he was not ready to be back to simply being another part of the scenery that helps someone else shine brighter. Especially since even now that he is on the very top, he still wakes up daily thinking about how it's only a matter of chance that he has not yet faded into the city's steam.
Kerry's life may be altered again by V's chosen response to this particular revelation. Declaring that he does not need anyone's help to keep himself afloat shows V believes in his strength and will invite an expression of hopefulness, albeit in a rather disconsolate, unconvincing tone. A different approach offered is the romantic kind, where V may conclude the declaration of faith with a kiss. The gesture will be unexpected, but only reciprocated in the case of male V, after which Kerry suffers a flash of uncertainty, asking whether Johnny was present during such an intimate exchange. The notion is rejected near immediately, as he reminded himself that he managed to grow out of Johnny's shade, so his presence no longer mattered. Looking back at the city spreading below his feet, he remembered the passing of time and expressed a wish to remain in this uniquely peaceful moment forever. However, life will not wait, so they departed, Kerry remaining a little bit longer on the balcony to process his thoughts and enjoy a rare breath of optimism about the coming days.
Within the next few days, Kerry contacted V once more for what appeared to be a pleasant afternoon sailing. He brought a special guitar with him too, a custom-built Lancaster, one of 5 in the series, an instrument of high significance on which he played a brand new tune, announcing exclusively to V that he has made a decision to close a chapter of his life. He elaborated that the first real and meaningful music he ever wrote was while out on the open sea, catering to the upper class on a cruise ship. Being here on a yacht, after the success he achieved, he is finally coming to peace with the realization that Johnny's heritage was not in fact the basis of his own success. The two drove inspiration from different wells, and, ultimately, their perception of beauty in this world differed. Where one saw the opportunity to elevate, the other used it to incite rebellion. Closing the door on the days spent looking back, Kerry is finally ready to move away from practicing what he saw as Johnny's principles and start focusing on himself, putting his own life instead, no longer afraid of his own shadow. He promised that the days of chaos and mayhem he would usually resort to were over. Starting morning after, that is, as the assumed event had an ulterior motive, violently breaking the Lancaster, as would the ancient rocker tradition of concluding concerts demand. He mentioned that the luxurious yacht they were on was actually owned by L.B. Kovacek, the man he swore revenge on. Destroying it felt as if it would provide just the right amount of relief, considering the nature of the betrayal. V is invited to participate in this exhibition of savagery and potentially expand on their previous romantic exchange, right before an explosive finish, observed from the beach. Should V go along with the romance route, Kerry will express interest in an encore. V's reply in this moment is of great significance once more, stating that it will be a one-time thing after all that's been said will push Kerry into a relapse, where he will close up and walk away without turning back, potentially undoing all of the personal growth he achieved over the past several days. On the other hand, agreeing with his proposal will start a relationship, after which Kerry will drive V back to Watson and head off home to focus on finishing off the new album. As he explained it, it will be titled after his own name, signifying a rebirth through songs that are nothing less than portraits of his old selves.
Phew, that was quite a long one, wasn't it? Alright,
that was a pretty long video, surprisingly.
Yeah, so there's a lot going into the Kerry story. There's I guess a little bit more like we could talk about, but I think that's pretty good. What we might do is just a quick bit of trivia, and then we'll talk about our thoughts on Kerry and kind of wrap it up there. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. We can have a little chat about our thoughts on him, and there's honestly quite a lot more going on with him than I thought, especially playing it myself.
So he's a pretty big character. I in my playthrough, I mean, I didn't even do any of that side stuff, let alone romancing. If I'm honest, it sort of skipped me by, and so I wasn't aware of a lot of that extra stuff with us cracks. Just I don't know how many times we've said us cracks or us cracks almost today in this video, but quite a lot. So yeah, I mean. Definitely a cool character, one of Johnny's best mates, which you gotta love. And just a few, I think, trivia points. We'll start off here with Kerry. He actually drives a personalised, it's called in-game Rayfield Aerondyne Guinevere, which is quite a cool car that he has. And I think it's almost a unique one, isn't it? I don't think there's any other in the game.
I think it's just his one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, his favourite spot to order coffee is Caliente, as they offer drinks as thick as tar, and organic if you're regular. And his preferred order is a double espresso, Jamaican blend with no sugar. The interesting about Caliente is I'm pretty sure that it's mentioned in quite a few songs on. Do you remember what the radio station is that's like more of a Hispanic style or Latin style?
I know what you mean.
Is that
I just
Pacific?
can't remember what it's called. Yeah, maybe.
Is that Radio Pacific or something like that? So I'm pretty sure I've heard that word a few times. I know it has a meaning in Spanish, and I'm probably going to have to look this up right now because I don't want to start a thought without finishing it. Pretty sure it means like, not friend, but something along those lines.
Yeah. As another bit of trivia here, as a media-proclaimed god of rock and living legend, Kerry has been compelled to put a copyright claim on his own biometric data and sign an agreement with the NCPD to scan for unauthorized replications of his facial structure. The process being necessary can be verified by exploring personal data of a Samurai Psycho fan. So that's pretty interesting. I guess it makes sense in a cyberpunk world that you'd have to sort of protect even your own body image, let alone like your copyright data and stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, so caliente means like warm or hot.
There you go.
Which makes sense. I'm pretty sure, and I also want to find out what the radio station is called. So there is one called Body Heat Radio, but I think that's the pop music style one. Well, there's like Night FM. There's like Pezback. Where is it? Okay, there's Vexel Strom, Electronic Dance, Royal Blue Jazz, Night FM, Electronic Ritual. Body Heat is the pop one, and Principales. Thank you. That's the Latin. Reggae and hip hop style. Alright. And then there's also during the mission Never Fade Away, Kerry wears a military dog tag with the same writing as on Johnny's.
Upon finishing the quest Off the Leash, you will be able to unlock an additional dialogue option with Spectre Cheng in his store in Westbrook, through which the vendor will tell you a story about Eurodyne's encounter with a psycho, where he went from having a knife held at his throat to having drinks with him.
Interesting. So the Kerry's design was actually based on a friend of the original creator of Cyberpunk, Mike Pondsmith.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, actually. Yeah.
And also, obviously, despite only being a romance option available for the male V, Kerry's considered as bisexual as per the law. I mean, he was married with kids, and he's a rocker, so he probably goes whichever way suits. Probably people will say he's pansexual as opposed to bisexual, but whatever. He's just. Doesn't really care. He's just into the individual person. I guess some people will say it's good that there's an option in there for like a same-sex relationship for a male V as well. Obviously, you have Judy for a female V and Kerry for a male V. A lot of people love Kerry as a character. I quite like him. He's not a bad sort of side character, but I think that's probably all you could really do with him, to be honest. It is a story that I think there are quite a lot of people that could resonate with, the idea of kind of drug dependency and trying to get clean and, having those kinds of troubles and feeling like you're in someone's shadow. And like, there's a lot in there that's pretty good as a character in the game. Yeah, like I enjoyed when you got to meet him. I enjoyed doing the Johnny mission where you do the gig together, and as I said, unfortunately, I missed the side quest, which I wish I had done now because they sound quite interesting, like blowing up a yacht and going and threatening these Japanese people called ass cracks.
Yeah, I did actually do this quest line because I sort of went out of my way to at least see all the romance quests, even if I couldn't actually romance them with just one male V. And yeah, it's definitely a fun quest line because it sort of makes you feel like you're stepping into Johnny's shoes a little bit again, just by without him actually being the one doing the work. It's still you as V, but you're sort of working with one of his old partners and sort of doing a lot of the band-related things in the background that you wouldn't really think about when Johnny's sort of portrayed as more of like a violent, like mercenary later on in his life. So it's definitely pretty interesting.
And something that I have to say I'm bang up into as well is the Kerry's song kind of lo-fi or like extended mixes, which if I've done it right, should be playing in the background of this video that you're listening to right now as a listener. It's really nice that the sort of bars that he plays in the song is quite good, I have to say.
Yeah, definitely. But I think with that, we've pretty much covered everything we have on Kerry Eurodyne for now. If you guys have any thoughts or feelings about this character, let us know in the comments. And I'd love to hear if anybody has romanced him as well, like fully, because I obviously didn't fully romance him. I just went through the quest line and then sort of turned him down. But I'm sure somebody in the comments might have fully romanced him, and I'd love to see if anything is too different after that.
Yeah, sounds good. Alright, we'll see you in the next Cyberpunk lore video.
See you guys.
Of course. Fucking voicemail. You're probably cruising in a different time zone or in fucking orbit for all I know. Listen, don't take this the wrong way or anything. I love having an input who's also, that's it, his bad boy. But I wouldn't mind just sitting on the couch once in a while and listening to some music or watching some garbage sitcom with a bowl of popcorn. So, anyway, let me know when you're back in the city and grab some olives on your way back, okay? My martinis look sad without them. Actually, you know what? Forget it. I'll buy them myself. And get back in one piece, V.